How's it going, guys? Coffee here. Today I wanted to go over my tier list for SS10 and a overview of the patch notes, and basically which is what leads to why I am rating these characters as I am. Let's go ahead and jump right into it, and let's not force you guys to wait a bunch of time in order to basically get to the core of why these characters are rated as they are. First thing we can start with is the new character, the new Bing. The new characters are always extremely overpowered. They're always in a great place. If you look at the results from last season, the only character to have 100 plus characters completing SS21 was the new character. It was similar for this for when Thea 3 came out. It was just inevitable that it was going to happen again. They're always put in a good place. They're always trying to push the characters a lot. And that kind of gives them a reason to be there. The other characters here that we have, we can kind of group them up into some specific categories here, right? We have the characters here, Erica 1 and Rosa 2, which are both going to end up being melee based. Rosa 2 will end up being mana stacking with most likely Ice Spike, and then Erica 1 will be her standard Thunder Spike kind of multi-strike setup. Fastest character in the game, still just is going to excel and kind of do her thing. Cat girl life, they're all for it, right? So she is still going to be outperforming. She didn't get any changes whatsoever, no buffs, no nerfs really. I mean, technically she got a buff, to be honest. Everyone ended up getting a buff because of this new free activation medium that we get as soon as we finish campaign. Massive quality of life improvement, especially for multi-strike, because it's just like, well, you're going to dash around, and as soon as you stop dashing, you're going to start multi-striking. That's going to be big. It's going to be hard to convince me to not either start the new Bing or Erica 1, just because they're both going to be in such a good place. Same thing goes for both Carino 1 and Carino 2. They are both going to be set up. Wilt was not nerfed or changed at all, and the only thing that was holding these characters back before from being S-tier league starters was the fact that you needed to farm a bunch of money in order to get an activation medium. Now that you don't need to do that, they're in prime position to just get right up and going and start farming really, really hard right away without any issues. This, along with the buffs to Affliction Effect and the buffs to Reap, puts them in just a solid place to be day one, just instantly crushing and smoothly getting themselves all the way up into tier 8 and Profound. Thea 3 and Yuga 2, they're both, again, same setup for dot builds. Thea 3 was a little bit ahead of Yuga 2. They did nerf her a little bit. She's probably still going to be a little bit better than Yuga 2, but overall, because of the buffs, again, to Affliction Effect, the buffs to Reap, and the free activation, I mean, they're not going to use the activation medium as much because they're most likely going to end up on Mind Control. On Yuga 2, you do have the options of doing the Focus build as well that I played last season. You can probably do the same thing on Thea as well. But they're in a good place. They're going to be great still. Should be really smooth. And if you look at the results of basically kind of, I just looked on the EU server, and I kind of use this to basically, if you want to get a rundown of what skills people were using in order to hit SS21, as well as kind of the dates that they did this, right? Some of these did this very early, some of them did it very late. Yuga 1 didn't do this until near the end of the season, but they are making a lot of changes and a lot of pushes for Spellburst, right? So Yuga 1 might be okay, but let's go ahead and jump into the A tier ones here. We have Iris 1, Iris 2. The minion playstyle is still there. It's not really getting like massive quality of life pushes or improvements. This league, like this, they are focusing very heavily on Spellburst. They're focusing very heavily on buffs to Reap and dot builds. There's even buffs for Wilt builds, which is surprising. So they're still good. They're going to be solid. You'll be able to very quickly and very easily get yourself into tier 8. You will have to put in a decent amount of work in order to push that to Profound, though. The amount of money required to get yourself to Profound is going to be, if you want to play that playstyle and you enjoy the minion playstyle, you can get there, but it's not going to be cheap. It's not going to be free. Same thing goes for the 3 Gemmas here. You have Gemma 2 and Gemma 3. They're both going to be in a solid place. They did some buffs to like the barrier necklace for Gemma 3. They did some additional changes there. So they're going to be in a good place, but overall, Gemma 3's damage is just going to be lower than Yuga 2 or Thea 3. You are getting better defenses, but you're giving up damage for that. So with all the buffs that they are doing for us defensively as well, to on the gear changes, it's most likely going to be easier to get the defenses necessary, so you don't need to go Gemma 3. They did end up nerfing, or changing rather, the Searing Bone Ring, so you can't even go for like the early Ignite build with just a bunch of base Ignite damage to kind of carry you through the early amounts or early levels to get yourself into where you can farm for your gear. So because of that, they're just kind of in this thing where they're still going to be really good, but there are going to be better things out there. Gemma 1 itself is always a very, very expensive build. She typically gets to the point, because of all the conversion, that once you get to the point you can stack everything and you have the money to stack everything, she will excel, but she is not going to get there faster than other characters, right? That's the same way that Rayhan 2, see this guy here, he or Seething Silhouette, he will get there, right? You can get to the point where you're stacking like 200,000 life, and he's even being buffed a bit to where you can get an extra 20% life on top of that, where again, with the proper gear and with the proper money, he will scale to something crazy high. But it does take time to get there. It doesn't just like get off the ground really, really easily like the builds that are in A and S tier. The Erica 2, her best build was the Chain Lightning Spellburst build. You can just run her on just like basic Thunder Spike, where she's just a slightly worse Erica 1 early on. You can swap her into Chain Lightning, but the biggest thing is all of the Spellburst gear is going to get expensive because of the new Bing. The new Bing itself is built around Spellburst entirely, which means all the Spellburst gear is going to be crazy expensive. And whether or not Erica 2 is going to do that better or end up having better multipliers than Bing, I doubt it, just because the new characters are typically going to end up doing something crazy strong. They're always tuned that way to be in a good place. So she's still going to be great if you want to play her, but I think Erica 1 will end up outperforming her again in regards to just how quickly she's able to get through the content and everything else. Rayhan 1, Selena, Rosa 1, Yuga, they're all fine. They're not in a terrible place. Again, Yuga's gear is going to get a little bit more expensive because of the Spellburst stuff. He might end up honestly like really popping off if you can afford the Spellburst gear, but again, is that going to be better than what Bing is doing? Probably not. You're probably just going to be better off playing Bing if that's the kind of play style you want to be doing with like Chain Lightning Burst or whatever. Like everything else, Selena, you are using Howling Gale. You do have that minus movement speed. The build is solid, but it's just slow and it's not doing anything crazy. Because of the fact that the build's slow and we are in a league mechanic now that is emphasizing speed, I am hard pressed to recommend that. Versus again something like Mind Control, which is like, yeah, you have the minus movement speed, but you have so much extra damage that you can just stack a lot of movement speed however you can and kind of get yourself to a good place. Burst and Rosa, again, they're both going to be fine. Nothing flashy. If you put enough money into them, they're going to be fantastic, but don't expect miracles early on. We have Carino 3 and Demoto, which both of them had a few completions here for SS21. Not very many, right? And these both came pretty late compared to the other characters here, right? They came, nearly a month after or 3 weeks after what they were kind of going for everyone else. But a few people did manage to get it done. Does that mean that they spent or RMT'd 200,000 FE in order to do it? Probably, but it was doable, right? The characters aren't completely dead. I did know they made some changes to Carino that I know are most likely going to affect Carino 1 and 2. I don't think it really is changing Carino 3 at all, but the builds exist. You can still play them. From what I heard, the split shot build on Carino 3 was still doing kind of decent. With everyone playing Spellburst, you might be able to get the gear really cheap. So you might be able to surprise it. The last ones here, unfortunately, the only Bing build that existed was Bombard, and they nerfed it even more to kill it off. And then Thea 1 and 2, she just doesn't have the damage multipliers. It's just not there. She was already an expensive build always, and now if you're going to spend that much money, you're just better off spending it on other characters. Moto 1 is just unfortunately kind of left behind. The consensus between all of the minion players that I speak to is that minions are just not in a good place outside of Spirit Magi, and they are just getting left further and further in the dust. So hopefully there's an entire rework for both of these at some point here soon to kind of push them into a better place, and you know, hopefully they can get the love that they need. I will leave a link to the build guide here, going over again the reasons for why I think things are being changed or why they kind of are rated how they are. For me personally, I will have build guides put up for things. I'll be putting out build guides every day. I do need to just take the time, or actually have the time, to go and level these things and test them out. So I will let you know based off of the testing that I'm doing, kind of if anything changes, but I don't anticipate they will. This is based off of just the changes. I expect everything to kind of work out as it should. What I will end up starting on, I'm not really sure yet, but we'll see. But yeah, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. And other than that, see you in the next one.